We want to do a third roll call on that?
Sure. Do it. Mr. Bale.
Still here.
Mr. Drexler.
Here. You sure?
Mr. Morton.
Here.
Mr. Showerman. Here. Guys, come on in. Mr. Scatella.
Here.
Mr. Winarski.
Here.
Chairman Copeland.
Here. All right, so number one, orders number 21, first 2024 public health fund budget supplemental appropriation of $2,649. It's the second read. I think we talked about that pretty good the last meeting. Number two, resolution number 11, approving the 2024 Erie County Emergency Operations Plan. Thought on that, we had tabled that to give members more time to digest the material. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, everybody feels like they've read up on the topic. Yeah, absolutely. Resolution number 12, adoption of 2023 Erie County Hazard Mitigation Plan, same table to give members more time and their solicitor more time to digest the material. Same feeling. Tom, you think you're gonna be well read on the EMS and hazard mitigation plans for Tuesday to be able to take that off the table and move forward?
Sir, it's the EOP, Emergency Operations Plan.
Yeah.
It's
It's not EMS, but it's all the same to me. Yeah, I'll read that. I did not read either one of those agreements, but I will.
I have one little question though on the hazard mitigation. Did each township or borough write their own little description? Because some of them, I just thought it was interesting for hazard mitigation. Some of them gave the average per capita income, and I didn't know what that had to do with hazard mitigation. But it doesn't matter, certainly it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the process included a consultant and included all 38 municipalities. They all met and had many opportunities to identify hazards in their communities to make sure they were included in this book. They all adopted this book. FEMA and PEMA have also adopted the plan. So what it does is it puts in place the opportunities for if there is a disaster, that the funding will be available through FEMA or PEMA because those disasters have been identified and they've adopted the plan. So they have to, by law, each municipality has to have a hazard mitigation plan every 5 years. And we do it collectively as a county to help them, because if they did it each individually, they'd cost something around 25 grand a piece for 38 municipalities to identify their hazards and properly document everything per FEMA and PEMA requirements. So that's why we do it all together. So everyone was given the opportunity to input onto this plan. It took about 1.5 years. And what it does, wanting us to adopt it is because although they have adopted at the municipal level, they'll be eligible then for those PEMA and FEMA funds in the event of a disaster. If we have some need for funds for ourselves and we don't adopt it, we won't be eligible for those funds for county acts. And if something happens to a county government facility and we're looking for FEMA and FEMA disaster pending, we won't be eligible if we don't also adopt this on file. So the planning process was very lengthy and very involved with the public process and with the municipal leaders that we talked about. And it is all documented here. We use this too as sort of a plan going forward because it identifies areas of flood hazard and infrastructure needs and dams and waterways and things that if they come and they need some help, we can say, hey, that place is identified in the hazard mitigation plan, and then we should look for or assist with funding to help them, to remediate those issues on their own.
Does that mean if it's not identified that they're not eligible for any relief? Like if one of the municipalities doesn't, there's still fallback funds or something, or?
Well, the particular items they put in here are known hazards. If something comes up outside of the plan, because they are involved with this process, this planning process, they will still be eligible.
Because they're still part of it.
Because they're part of the
I was
plan.
just,
It's possible, Councilman, that something could have been missed or this is a 5-year plan, so we update it every 5 years and if new hazards are identified, they'll be in the next planning cycle.
Yeah, I just seemed like not everything would be
Yeah.
obvious to be an issue, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this runs the gamut from anything, all kinds of weather types of issues that could occur, flooding, floodplain, waterways, bridges, roads, all kinds of stuff, but it could miss rail, infrastructure, but we'll try to capture everything, in this.
Okay.
It's pretty
Chairman.
comprehensive.
Yeah, it's comprehensive.
Does it involve emergency management services? Yes. Or can it involve emergency management services? And how often, when was the last time that the county applied for funds under this program?
Yeah, I don't have the latest, last time there was met mitigating the disaster, we actually applied for funds. I'm assuming the last time would have been during COVID.
Have you applied for funds for E EMS?
That's not, this is emergency management is natural disasters is the focus of this. When you're talking about emergency medical, which is not a disaster or a hazard, it's a service that is separate from what we're talking about here.
Well, that was my question.
And this is emergency
It is.
management. This is planning for mitigating emergencies and disasters in your communities, either planning for, to prevent, or mitigating beyond. So those,
Or would you not be planning
but that's not,
countywide to prevent, for the purposes of health and safety, in order to prevent injuries or late
Oh, we
arrivals
are.
of court?
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, and that is part of the hazard mitigation plan. I think we're just differentiating between emergency medical services or fire or law enforcement. That has nothing to do with this plan. So to speak. This is
Well, does it or
mitigating
doesn't?
hazards.
well,
I understand that maybe the operating book itself does not specifically address an EMS or EMS authority, but can it not be interpreted to apply to such kinds of events? An emergency management system.
the emergency management system
The question could-
identifies the assets that could be called upon in the event of an emergency. Every community has to have an emergency operations plan, which John's also got on the agenda for this. So you, in the emergency operations plan, you want to know who your providers are, who your partners are that will come together in an EOC, in an emergency operations center in the event of a disaster. But this plans for what those disasters could be. And it does identify in the back of this book what the asset inventory, like where your fire stations are in your communities and where your EMS agencies are in your communities, but it doesn't this doesn't guide any operations or decisions of how those entities.
Sure, I understand
Okay.
that part. My inquiry is simply, can you apply for funds under that program to be related to providing EMS services
No,
and structure?
No, you can't.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We on to number 4, general fund budget supplemental appropriation of $20,000 for AOPC safety and security grant reimbursement. And the creation of a new line item, the Safety and Training Bureau. Someone speak to that? Yes, sir.
I come annually, before council. We get 2 funding opportunities through AOPC annually. One is for the Court of Common Pleas, i.e. the courthouse. The second, which is the one that you all are looking at, is for the magisterial district judge's office. These are for safety and security infrastructure improvements in those facilities. It's $20,000, 100% reimbursable, non-matching. And this is a recurring thing, and we foresee this occurring, over the coming years as well. The amount fluctuates a little bit by a couple $1,000s every year. I've seen it go up and down, but it's usually in that 20 to 25,000 a year.
And we always try to take steps to the equipment or things that we're replacing or things that those remain our assets. We'll
Yes,
take, if we can pull those.
the 2 things that we can consider when implementing something. Could we take those objects to a new facility if we were to lease another building? And then if we can't, we will look for funding other places to do that. We try to use this for things that we can keep down the road.
And so this funds stuff like bulletproof glass or dividers.
Access control
Cameras.
cameras, yes, sir.
Thank you, John, too. That's really important work and even more so in this kind of convoluted society. Where people are put at risk that have never had to worry about that stuff before. So I for one appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5, general fund budget supplemental appropriation of $1.9 million for the prison roof replacement.
So basically, we had a late winter wind event that delaminated a section of the prison roof. So we built specs, took it to bid. That number that you see in front of you is for the contractor's fee and for the architectural services that are involved also with the replacement of the roof.
So if it's a late winter, weather bid, it's the insurance, we have insurance.
No, we have had previous roof claims for that roof. In 2020, we did approximately 20% of the roof under insurance. It was about $550,000 that people did cover. At that time, they did let us know that because now we are aware of an issue that further claims would be denied. But the remainder of the roof was still in good enough condition to not have to replace it yet.
So since 2020, no one's looked at the roof. And so you're saying that this winter event cost $2 million worth of damage?
No, there was only a small section of the roof that has blown off, not blown off, but delaminated, which is now secured with sandbags.
Yeah, because what I think, and I don't know, call me fickle. I think that this is something that really should have been in the budget last year. And I think that this creates a really, really huge problem for the taxpayer. And I actually spoke to our accountant. I'd like for him to chime in some of this stuff as well.
Yeah, so one of the things, I had the pleasure to speak with one of the contractors regarding the roof, and I had some questions regarding, the true cost of it and steps that we could take if county council wanted to move forward and approve the supplemental appropriation. One of the contractors who was apparently on top of the roof, their recommendation, or one of the recommendations they said, is that we do not have to replace the entire roof. What we could do is do it in parts. So what they would do is they go in and do an envelope, basically, and only repair the address area that is actually having an issue. Is in their opinion, one of the contractors I spoke to, that this roof actually, sections of it probably could last another 5 years. And that what we could do then is actually account and budget the roof and repair it in parts. So we wouldn't have to supplementally appropriate a $1.9 million. Instead, we could do it in, let's say, thirds, which would be something we could do in budget on a rotating basis as we actually needs to address, which would reduce the burden $1.9 million and to divide that by 3, for example. That's one of the recommendations that I would look at exploring instead of just shelling out another $1.9 million that we did not properly account for in the budget. So that would be one of the options that we could take. But it is their opinion that the section of the roof could last another 5 years, and some of the sections probably don't need to be touched at all.
Mr. Chair. Is it gonna cost more money to break it up in sections? Because you're creating now 3 different job things as opposed to doing it all at once. Is that going to be like an additional 500 grand that it give you any kind of monetary value? On
So-
breaking it up?
Yeah, so obviously that all depends on obviously the cost of materials at the time. So for example, if you are budgeting out, let's say a giant capital project like this, contractors in general can buy materials in bulk at a discount, depending on the amount that you are buying. But that price point would differentiate based on what the market is currently looking at. So, buying wood or whatever we need to prepare the roof now could either decrease or increase depending on how long out we are. And it also depends on the contractors who are hiring for that job at that time. So, but in general, you could probably make some sort of negotiation or contract saying, okay, we'll do this third this year, and then, another third the next year, another third the following year, and just, negotiate some sort of purchasing contract or maintenance agreement with them. And, pay the cost of materials at that time, if the job is actually supposed to be accomplished or done. If that answers your question.
Yeah, and I just like the break, I wouldn't wanna store materials, but like, if it's 1.9, we need to do it all at once, and 2.4 to do it in 3 different sections, I know we're spreading it out, but. Yeah, where there isn't, and then, I mean, does it make more sense, like, I know that you're talking about waiting for general fund, but making this a bond issue and spreading it out.
If I could just finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, because we're having a discussion. But for one, it's like, where is this money supposed to come from? It's the first thing. And then the second thing is, it's like we still got a phone system thing that the administration haven't brought down yet. It's going to be probably substantial. We already kind of know our financial forecast. It's kind of a tough stretch. That's for $2 million expenditure at this time, without really knowing it. And I've said it before, we really need to really about it, because I'm not really comfortable with the numbers. Every week, it seems like the goalposts are moving. We haven't had a report according to number 5. We haven't had a report saying this is what it is. And if I was the accountant firm, I'd be uncomfortable too. That's kind of like akin to be working in retail, and I come replace you, and I take your drawer, and I don't count your drawer. I think that's problematic, and I think we'll continue to have that problem until we address it. Yes, sir.
One of the things I also want to add, as you mentioned bonds, one thing that you could factor in while you could issue bonds to this, I would highly recommend against. As you know, that will increase the total cost of the project over time, due to the interest that you will pay on those bonds. So I would recommend setting money aside and paying a small amount up front to get the section done, and then you could budget to put cash aside for a year to then pay the cash upfront, since you're not going to pay interest if you have to issue those bonds. So that would then offset, doing it all at once, because let's say you pay 1.9 million, but you issue bonds to cover the expense, now you're paying the bond interest rate, which may and likely will be higher, so it increase the cost of the project at that time too.
Yeah, I understand that part. I just think, at that point, I'd be looking to see if we can combine a few projects that we needed to take care of, and so something like that happens one. I don't think it'd be worth it to just do it for one, but. Okay. Thank you.
So if you do it that way, how do you bid the job? One contractor, if you come back in 3 years to bid another section, use a different contractor. You don't know what type of price you're gonna get.
No, that would probably be up to, I defer to Tellerico regarding what that legal procedure would look like in regard to the contracts and how that would look up from the county's perspective regarding the contract.
The bid documents list a deduct per square foot, correct? So you guys, if you said, hey, we want to do a quarter of this project for the damaged sections, you already have a deduct for that, right?
No, the deduct that is in the bid specifications that we drew up is only for the ISO, for the base layer of insulation.
The installation
Yeah.
deducts, they'll leave the existing installation in place.
Yeah, because we know that a lot of the insulation is wet, but we also know that some of it's not going to be. And instead of just filling the landfill with good insulation, we put in there so that they would give us some credit. And they had to state up front how much each, 100 square feet of ISO was worth. So that when we do the tear off, we, everybody's honest about it.
How do you evaluate what insulation stays in place? And what's the process of? So this could very well come in well under 1.9 if there's a significant amount of insulation that can stay in place.
That's correct.
I mean, but how are you evaluating that on site? Is that the discretion of the contractor or?
No, it'll be a discretion of between the contractor, us and an inspector.
It could come in over 1.9 to the initial damage was 2020. We had some minor repairs. And I didn't see anywhere in the 3-year plan. Capital plans to fix this. And again, I just think it's something that should have been addressed in the budget. And I understand the late winter event, but I think that we're almost past it to the point where we should start. Don't just start bringing things down here, specifically those large expenditures. Really been world of hurt.
I am a little bit concerned that this hasn't been listed on the. As a capital expense, you know, in the budget, even considering that this is gonna be coming down the pike, I mean. 4%, I think, roughly of our fund balance in a single ordinance. It makes me really uncomfortable. Paul, is there any discussion about financing this in any way over a term of?
I'm actually gonna agree with Paul in the financing this, we're gonna pay interest, and it's gonna end up costing more. I did have a question though, which contractor did you talk to?
I talked to one of the union reps,
One
one of Scott, and then I talked to one.
Scott that was here last.
Yes,
week?
I talked to him, and then I talked to one of the other local based contractors as well.
Which one?
My name is Lee.
Okay.
It was someone Scott recommended.
And, someone you recommended.
That's
And
not,
then when
yeah.
this company did bid on the job?
Scott, no, a lot
No,
of.
Scott's a
No,
union
Scott,
representative.
yeah.
The company that you spoke to, did they bid on the job?
No,
Oh, okay,
no, they did
so
not.
they're just coming up with
As
this
an
plan now.
independent, yeah,
Okay,
completely independent,
I just wondered,
yeah.
just coming up with that now.
Is it, are we getting bids from local contractors?
So Scott mentioned that there was several bids that were from local contractors. They were a little bit higher, but the way as he put it is the current people who got the bid were Central State Commercial Roofing, who are based out of Meadville. And they are not currently local, and they came under at, I think it was 1.9. Some of the local ones came up a little bit over that capital project, closer to, I think, $2 million. But some of the contractors that have been on the project also have worked at the prison before, while this one has not. So yeah, no, go ahead. Sure.
Can you define what's a little bit?
I believe the difference was about 200,000. So the current one that's supposed to be awarded is big, the Central Roofing based out of Meadville, they're not local and they've never worked at the prison before. While there has been some that have worked at the prison before and who are familiar with the procedures and the high stipulations of working on a governmental property, especially that one with such a to the degree of a prison. So that's just something to consider.
Seems like a small amount of money to not like keep that local.
Yeah, I believe it was somewhere around the 200,000, 300,000 difference.
It's more like three.
The bids in here are, for the other ones are anywhere from 2.1 to 2.4.
So I'm still relatively new. I mean, is it common to have a bid process and have the, you know, job ready to award and then start to ask council for the money? I'm a little bit surprised, like, I watched the process of the roof bidding. And I thought, well, what line item is this, where is this in the budget? Like, is this a normal process to bring it to council after? I mean, that $70,000 going to the architect, do we already owe them that?
Not the full amount, there's a percentage that we would owe regardless of if the contract goes forward or not.
Right, was that like, subject to like waiver requirements for bidders to?
No, we have we already do a bid for our architect,
Okay,
so.
so there was an
we don't have a
RFP
waiver.
process.
Yes.
Gotcha, understood, that makes sense.
Brad, just from your viewpoint. If we just fixed the part that is damaged. How comfortable are you or what you guys have gathered to let the rest go in pieces?
I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, we kind of thought it was in better shape than it is, obviously, or we, we wouldn't have continued to let it go. But now that we've had two identical events where the roof is delaminated, I think now we're a little bit committed to doing the full roof. And the idea of breaking it up into sections, in my opinion, would cost more money because you create a lot more detail work. You're tying in new roof to old roof in a lot of areas, which also affects warranties and things like that. And if you get different contractors, different manufacturers, and then you have people point fingers, oh no, it's under your warranty, it's under your warranty. We spec the same brand for the manufacturer so that it will match what we did 4 years ago. So I just think the idea of splitting it up would actually probably cost us a lot more money.
My final comment is, there's no supplemental, this is a supplemental appropriation. And if there's no money for it, where's that money come from? Where's that money come from? Where's that money come from, Paul?
Do I read the statement now?
Yeah,
Okay,
is this certifying that funds are
no, it's
available?
not.
Well, then we don't wanna hear it.
Okay, then
You can't certify where the funds are coming from? No, don't read it.
well, we're going to certify the funds. There's $22 million excess in the general fund balance over and above what's needed per the resolution that was written years ago, saying we need that 2 months extra money.
So that same certification that you just provided, it would hold fast for the DEIC and the homeless money too, I would assume.
Well, I think that we should ask the county solicitor that question. We're talking about a legal opinion.
So we should ask Bill?
Yes,
Okay, then we shouldn't even be talking about it then, if we don't have a legal opinion on it, is what you're telling me.
well, we don't have a legal opinion on, well, I do.
But we don't.
I commiserate, but I would ask that we stay top.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, let's move on to number 6, amendment to the administrative code, article 2, section 5D3A, Erie County Conservation District. This is an amendment to the administrative code establishing term limits for the Conservation District appointees.
I was just wondering on that, if, we should run that by them with the 2-term limit
I didn't hear what you said.
to get their opinion, the conservation district's opinion on the 2-term limit versus a.
No, I used the law. I referred to the state law and I referred to the administrative code.
I think if you wanted to speak to them, there's nothing preventing you from speaking to them to inform your opinion, but I would also suggest that, when you're talking about restrictions on somebody's ability to serve or something, that you get an idea of which way they're going to advocate, right? Most people do not take term limits willingly when they're enforced upon you. That's why we don't have them in Congress right now, because the people that would have to have the term limits won't.
2 versus
They
3.
could themselves.
Our last conversation.
I will
with
say,
them.
if we're gonna bring this forward, I would ask for an amendment to be 3 consecutive terms. I'm not comfortable with
That's-
establishing a more rigorous limit to them than we are imposed ourselves. That, and if I am lucky enough to serve 3 terms and I have somebody that is serving well, they're not council appointees, but you know what I mean, for any of these positions. I don't see why somebody would be able to serve just as long as I am.
That was exactly my question.
My feeling is it's a very small and specific pool of knowledge and people. And to me, this is, one that I look at as, an exemption, and I wouldn't support it. I'd like to see it stay the same way, so I won't support it.
Vote it up or vote it down.
Without changing it for 3 terms.
Well, I think we would amend in meeting. Yes, I would make that motion.
motion.
There's one other thing. Does the ordinance at the bottom say when the ordinance will be effective? Usually it will say the ordinance.
Upon adoption.
This ordinance shall be effective. I don't know if I have the right form. Because I remember it saying,
Yeah, it says this ordinance shall be effective immediately upon adoption.
okay, well, that should be amended to state that it shall be effective January 1, 2025.
Number 7, approval of waiver of the bid requirements of the purchasing code, and approval of sole vendor contract between Erie County and Runbeck Election Services. For the equipment we just approved as the election board an hour ago. Concerns? And then last name, possible sale of a parcel for the repository. I've not looked that one up yet. Looks to be a local person.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
before we go to the fund analysis, I would ask that this body send a letter to our solicitor, to the finance director in the administration, asking for accurate accounting of the funds, asking that he fulfill his obligation of providing a monthly report of exactly, not an approximate, it says exactly what funds are available, what funds are already get the word spoken for, whatever, committed, and what's been appropriated and what's available. He's supposed to do that for us monthly. I didn't say it. You can read it for yourself in the home rule charter. We haven't received that. That's certified what's left, what's not. Anything less than that, it's 3-card money with the money. It's goalposts being moved. We've seen it with the ARP. How much is left? Oh, 6 million. How much is left? Oh, 4 million. How much is and stuff? And so, if I need to put it to a motion, I will do so. But I think that it's time that we have some real accountability. So it's time for us to fulfill our responsibility and fulfill our oath. We have 2 jobs. It's budget and policy. We went a whole year without an accountant. We're in court over interpretation of what the budget means, what it doesn't mean, what's left, where we can spend what we can't spend. And I'm asking you, my colleagues, to agree to a letter asking Paul to do his job. And that's my motion.
I would give support to that, but I will also say that I don't expect it to change. I definitely would give support to such a letter, but I think, at this point, the time, allow for a veto process is passed and the ordinance has become law. And I think that we should consider legal action to get the money released, because that might be our only option at this point. I had hoped that political pressure might be enough to.
There's a motion on the table. We can discuss it. Is there a second? And then discussion.
Your motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Now, Carrie, you can go ahead with discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I give support to that, but I think that we might have to resort to other tools. I had hoped that just seeking compromise and would be enough to move people on the topic, but yes, I give support.
I think our attorneys advised before that a letter is the first option, and then we'll see what the response is, and we'll plan our response from that.
I mean, the unmitigated gall, the audacity to come here and say, I'm certifying funds for $2 million expenditure. But this doesn't mean, but no, I'm not certified for anything else. You know, I might look simple, I might look naive. But I've been through a little bit, and I know BS when I see BS.
Yeah, my support.
They're probably moved the second that you got a call for the over there, right?
We don't
I,
vote here.
we typically don't vote on this, but I think that you have a majority that agrees that, we should take that action. Would you please?
Yeah.
We're going now.
I also have a question for Paul. Paul, are you simply saying that the money is coming from the reserve?
For the roof, yes.
Okay.
And I guess my question is, the financial statements each one of you receive each month, they're not good enough?
You told us they were approximate, so no.
No, the financial,
It
the
says
statement I
exact.
read is an approximation. The financial statements you get via email every month are where we're at. So.
I think Andre's contention though is
No,
that,
not enough.
that would be,
No, it's not enough.
That I'm not doing my job, but we do send you the financial statements every month. So,
It didn't say send us a statement, it says send it here, I can read it
Okay.
for you if you want it to. Want this quote.
Jim, you have a very short agenda.
That probably isn't going anywhere.
There it is. Each month, submit to the county executive and council a statement of revenue and expenditures for the preceding month and for the fiscal year up to and including the preceding month. Discuss this statement. And the statement shall be sufficiently detailed as to appropriations, allotments, and funds to show the exact financial condition of the county and of each of its boards, commissions, departments, offices, and agencies. And you're telling me that we receive that from you every month? Because I don't think we do. I don't have anything else. Sorry for holding up.
It's okay.
I'll take a minute.
All right, and that brings us to number 9, Paul.
any interest?
Is that?
Is there any interest?
We have an argument.
Well, Andre told me he didn't want to hear it.
Oh, the chair asked for it, so let's
Okay.
go with it.
So if all the ordinances on the finance agenda pass, the estimated general fund unassigned fund balance will be $45,028,603. And that is $22,706,730 above the $22,321,873 needed for 2 months of county expenditures and transfers.
Yeah, so we have to take that big bank and pay for it out there, that $2 million.
All right, with that,
Oh.
we'll adjourn.
The roof is just a first reading, so it's the rest of fact of the one.
Yes, that's in there.
We're sending that, but not the EI or the. Homeless money?
Well,
I just don't get it. like-
those are not coming out of the general
I
fund,
got
as you
you.
know.
It's fine.
Yeah, we know it's ARPA money.
Yeah, those are general.
We got the
No,
letter.
I got it. I just. It's good.
5 months ago, it was $52 million. Jim. Thank you.
Personnel agenda,
Don't
ordinance number
be all
13,
day.
2024. Appointed official salary ordinance for the director of administration. Our first read was back in February 13th, 2024, was tabled 2 weeks later. Any,
Well, we just sent him, the thing was to send a letter,
what you did, or you-
which Friday. But he's not here. I don't know if he read his, I don't know if he's in.
And I still believe that we've got a person in the position that's doing a job and should be getting paid.
Apparently he is. get paid.
You should,
I think he has to be. or-
I would still state that if an employer hires somebody for a job and asks them to start doing it without knowledge as to whether or not they could get paid, that's the employer's fault. Not the person giving approval for the salary. Just because you hire somebody and put them in the conditions to which they would not get paid, that is not my fault. He had a position under the county. He could get paid by the county under that position. I'm not gonna feel bad if an employer went to somebody and offered them the job without knowing whether they have approval for that pay and made them work.
And
That's
we
the
just
employer
hired-
that is on the wrong in that.
And we just hired, Mr. Massey for economic development under that same theory, which is crazy, it's ludicrous.
but two, I guess if that approval was based on the person, the position, the job that's done, and not that it's being held up because of other issues.
Well,
So
the
to me,
ordinance,
that's
the
the
or-
difference.
the ordinance itself does say at the end of the ordinance, should this person vacate this position, county council shall have the ability to approve their replacement. So clearly, in our own ordinances, we're acknowledging that a replacement may or may not get paid the same amount that the position was worth before. I mean, I think that that's what bothers me the most, is not only is it a home rule charter administrative code violation, but Mr. Davis has decided to violate a law that he has put his hand to. He signed the ordinance to approve Doug Smith's pay, where that ordinance itself says that if the position is vacated, we have to approve a new one.
Well, this was brought forward in February, and he wasn't starting the job till April 1st.
I had hoped that
It
in
was
2
us
months,
that didn't address.
I had hoped that in 2 months that they would come to the table and work with us a little bit to get just a little bit of what we want to get done. And this just absolute
Well,
unwillingness to even bot, and Ellen, I would say the response to political pressure is not lawlessness. Right? Like, it's an ordinance that he signed himself, acknowledging that this position has to be approved again when it's vacated. And it is, I'll tell you what, I might be trying to play a little bit of a game to try to achieve some of the policy and spending priorities we have. Yeah, I am trying to do that. But the response to that is, it's like playing chess with a 2-year-old. All of a sudden now the chess piece gets to hop 4 spots. Like, whoa, I thought we had established rules here. And like.
well, that's why it was brought forward in February for us to approve what set the salary would be.
And that's why I felt comfortable tabling it, because never in my imagination did I ever think that they would just do it anyway.
I don't think we should be voting or tabling issues based on wanting to elicit a response on a different issue.
I agree. I think that we should, however, be tabling things when the authority or of this body is being stripped away. And so I beg to differ. I don't think that's the issue, is the man working or the man. He's a great guy. I don't think any of that's the issue. The issue is that he has no respect for this body, this authority, and we set our authority away. And so I don't have I'm very comfortable with tabling this out. And again, I would say that, to further thumb his nose, he went ahead and hired someone else, over at the economic development under that same premise. So that indicates to me he has no desire for compromise, no desire to engage in any way, since we're in the highway.
Well, on this issue, though, this was, as I said several times, brought out in February for us to have it totally resolved before he started his position, to establish what his salary would be. But we were the ones that tabled it.
Right.
Yeah, but that was our choice. Like,
Yeah, that's under the realm of our responsibility, of our authority, and it's our
But it would be
prerogative.
totally solved if we would have taken care of it. in
It
February.
wouldn't solve the issue of the DEIC and the homeless.
No, but this should be a separate issue, totally
Okay.
separate.
You say potatoes, I say potatoes.
And who are we really penalizing? Because if you're saying that it has no impact on the county executive, you're not penalizing him, because there's no impact. So you're penalizing the person that is doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And I don't agree, I'm not a mass punishment kind of guy, got enough of that in the military, I don't like that, I like to see that punishment fits the crime and it goes to the person that's ultimately responsible, and in this case, I don't think Mr. Senate or anything that he does has warranted his salary being held up, just mine.
He wasn't hired, he wasn't hired by us, and that warrants him not getting a salary. He never was hired by us.
Mr. Chair? Yeah, I mean, it's not about Joe Sinnott at all. It's not about any particular employee. If the administration played by the rules, there would be no problem.
But
And he doesn't play by the rules. So what is county council supposed to do? Because right now, you're suggesting that county council go ahead and take it off the table so that we don't hurt Joe. But all that
We
means,
don't hurt Joe, but some of the blame is ours because this was brought forth in February.
well, there's no blame for it from a legal standpoint.
Before he started the job.
What if we put it up to a vote right now and we voted it down? What would we do then? I mean, I remember one of the first votes that we took was when the public defender's office was asking us to approve salaries for new public defenders, and in that conversation heard that they were already hired. She wanted us to move to a second read because they would be working without pay.
That's happened many times.
And so, and I asked in that meeting, like, wow, you already hired them and told them what they were gonna make before we approved it? Like, what if we say no?
Well, so that we make the distinction, we have no authority to hire and fire. But we have the authority, exclusive authority to pay. So the administration is fine with hiring these people because he has the authority to do so. But he can't start paying them without council approval. That's the only issue. And he should know that, and his council should know that as well. Regardless of whether council sat on it, and council, let's assume, sat on it initially for political purposes. Because the county executive would not play ball or would not cooperate with council. One example would be our own deputy secretary salary. So there are reasons, political or governmental reasons, in order to keep the playing field fair that have to enter sometimes.
What do the Pennsylvania labor laws say? Can you hire somebody for a position, put them in it and have them working and refuse to pay them?
Again, I would put that as the
But I
fault
Yeah.
of the.
County council has to approve the salary.
Right, and that's why it was brought forward in February.
Exactly.
But
But
it was tabled for other reasons.
yeah, it may have been
that had
tabled
nothing to do-
for leverage issues, which is fine. Especially given that he won't play by the rules. Council would be fine if both sides played by the rules, but he doesn't. And so the only way to make the game fair is for council sometimes to use its own leverage, political.
What do the Pennsylvania labor laws say? Can you hire somebody, put them in a position and have them work and refuse to pay them?
Well, that's a different issue because
Well, it isn't,
no,
because that's what we'd be.
I mean, while you're looking at the position of the employee, their point of view. So the employee gets hired but doesn't get paid. And let's say he just quit a job for 75,000. And he was represented by the administration that he was gonna get 75. But he's here and he's only getting 65 until council approves it, the increase.
And
Well, theoretically, he'd be, out of luck, or he'd want to sue somebody. But the blame would be the county executives, because he shouldn't be making representations like that. Or he should be getting or telling them, look this is the salary, but it's contingent upon approval by council. I doubt if he's saying that. And so once he started paying Joe the salary of 97,000, which this body never approved. It's against the, it's contrary to the home rule charter. He does not have that authority.
And I guess the question though, was what you're saying. If council has not approved a salary. You're right, he shouldn't work without pay. Don't fill the position. I guess it's a false,
But it was only tabled for other reasons other than,
there's a dozen different things we could have done. We could have amended it up, we could have amended it down, we could have voted it down. We could have pulled it from the agenda altogether, like, I don't understand. You have somebody start to work once their pay has been approved. And if they do pursue the practice of employing them before they're getting paid, like. That, I would agree with you, that would be wrong.
that's why it came in February.
Yeah, because there are other implications too. Because if he gets hurt, we haven't approved any benefits or anything for him, if he gets hurt.
I think we only approve wages, but yeah.
So you're saying that we should have made a decision, but we didn't, like, I think that's the thing, like, we chose to not do that. So that means that his pay wasn't approved, so it's done, right? That's done. You can't pay him that money.
That's why
We
you
chose
chose
not
to,
to.
that's why.
But why does it matter? Why we
Because it
chose
does.
not to approve?
Because you're using politics again, you're not addressing the actual issue. If he's done something wrong, we should be better. We should do what needs to be done. We shouldn't be using a political game. We shouldn't be using another issue for this one, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I watched that.
So are you
based
saying
on-
then it would be appropriate to violate law?
No, I'm saying address if there's any type of malfeasance or there's an issue with the law, I mean, how do we handle it in the criminal world? We don't go and say, well, you committed this crime, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over and do something to your neighbor or your family to get back at you. I'm not gonna arrest you, or I'm not gonna take action on the actual issue. We should be taking action on the actual issue. So you don't, with DEI or with the homelessness and that money, that is the issue and that's what should be addressed. Mr. Sinnott's pay is not part of that issue and shouldn't be lumped in with it.
Didn't we address it by tabling it? We addressed the issue of him not releasing the
Or-
DEI
That's
money.
exactly why there's an issue now,
Right.
because it was tabled for a different reason.
Well, if he would have released DEI and the homeless money, we wouldn't have had to do that, right?
Quid pro quo, sure, that's what I'm saying.
It's-
You do this for us and we'll do that for you. That's
Well,
not how it
because the
should work.
difference
Kind of
is,
call politics.
the difference is though, this is a process that's legal. We can table things, we can vote it up, we can vote it down.
Again, if he's done something illegal, then let's address that.
What we're doing is not criminal.
And I guess,
I agree. If something he's doing is criminal or it's illegal, then let's
Well,
deal with it.
what the county executive has done is illegal.
Then let's prove it in a court of law or however we have to prove it.
We're working on that.
We would have to go to court every week. I
Yeah.
don't
But
think
is
that, I
it-
would never recommend.
I mean,
That's not. It doesn't have to be that hard.
So,
If someone play by the
you're
rules,
right,
they're fine.
it doesn't have to be.
so look, I'm exhausted. I told you, don't do this.
motion?
Told you don't take this time.
motion?
I moved that we be adjourned.
Okay, we're done.
You guys wanna talk about it? Go ahead, man. It's been a topic since February. I don't see it going no further unless he compromises.